It is truly a fantastic occasion, and it is my utmost pleasure to once again welcome every single one of you to this lovely day where we have a new office opening, and we are wishing the Mishras really, really well. All right, the man is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Please join your hands together and join me in welcoming Mr. Brian Lara into the room. The tiger is in the building. Louder, louder, louder. Can the applause get louder? Do we meet a legend every day? Brian, welcome. You're in the middle. Brian Charles Lara, born May 2, 1969, Cantaro, Trinidad. West Indian cricketer, one of the sport's most renowned contemporary players, the compact left-handed batsman is the record holder for the most runs scored in an innings in both Test and first-class cricket. Round of applause. And now I do have a question. Before we continue with the introduction, I already have a question for Brian. Brian, do you, are you well aware of the concept of BYO?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Bring your own?
Yeah.
You missed out on an opportunity, brother.
Let me know what opportunity was that?
Well, the opportunity, you could have had your own cricket team.
My own cricket team.
Yes, you're one of 11.
I did have my own cricket team. I'm
The
one of
entire
11.
family.
Yeah, and
Oh,
I had
awesome.
to bat at number 10.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Wow, excellent. Man of opportunities. Lara was expected from an early age to be the next great Western Indian cricketer. He was first selected for the West Indies national team in 1990 at age 21. But he did not make his mark until 94 when he broke the two most coveted batting records in cricket, scoring 375 runs against England, besting Sir Garfield Sober's 36-year-old record. Salute to you, man. And 501 runs not out for Warwickshire, his English county team. In 2004, Lara then became the first player to retake the Test batting record when his 400 runs not out against England surpassed the 380 runs posted by Australian Matthew Hayden in 2003. There is no doubt that he ranks with the likes of Sobers, Sir Don Bradman, Clive Lloyd and Sir Vivian Richards as among cricket's greatest batsmen. Lara, who played 131 tests in a career spanning 17 years, scored 11,953 runs at an average of 52.88. That is just... that is like 1.88 better than my average, and reclaimed the world with a stunning knock of 400 not out against England in 2004. Lara, who played his final test for the West Indies in 2006, finished with 34 centuries and 48 50s and remains the world record holder. He also played 299 ODIs for the West Indies and scored 10,405 runs at an average of 40.48. Excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep this high level of attention going. And I think just one teensy-weensy massive round of applause to acknowledge this legend amongst us right now. And with your permission, I would like to ask Brian some questions. Do I have your permission? Sorry, can't hear you. No. Yes, that's better. Okay. Comfortable now. Brian, you've made references to destiny on several occasions in your various interviews. So would you say, is it karma, destiny, or both, and why?
Well, first of all, I want to say a very good evening to everyone, and thank you for having me here. And to answer your question, I believe that it's destiny. I mean, obviously, as a young man growing up, I had aspirations and dreams to play for the West Indies. I remember from a very early age, you got to understand, in the Caribbean, back in those days, the West Indies was just, a powerhouse. And every parent wanted their son to play for the West Indies. So definitely it was my dream. And to fulfill that dream, it was just amazing. In terms of records and all these high accolades, I believe that they were more destiny than anything else. Everything had to pan out in one way for it to happen. I mean, you just looked at this weekend where David Warner had an opportunity to break the record, and they didn't go for it because obviously they were in a position to win the match, and they went for that. So in my case, it was a bit different. So it's destiny. It's also a lot of hard work and dedication, discipline that you have to put in as a young person wanting to make it to the top. And I felt that I did all the hard work necessary, but I didn't know that the end result was going to be so grand.
That you would break records left, right, and center.
I didn't know that, no.
So, Brian, what has been most enjoyable for you? Understanding cricket, playing cricket, breaking records, or representing cricket on a global scale, like you're doing right now?
I think the proudest moment is actually, making the West Indies team. Now, I made the West Indies team with all the great players still around. Sir Vivian Richards, you guys would know about them. Gordon Greenidge, Desmond Haynes. So to be in the same dressing room as those great players, they were all my role models. And to experience cricket at that level with them around was just an unbelievable experience. So for me, that was really and truly the time that I enjoyed the most.
Okay. And do you recall the phone call to Matthew Hayden in 2003?
Yes, I do.
You've made a few references to that. So what exactly changed after that conversation?
Nothing changed. I think that obviously it was the time of the day in Jamaica where I was. It was 2, 3 o'clock in the morning when my lawyer called me and he said, I got a number, you need to call it, your record was just broken. And I had no problem. I woke up, I think it was the dressing room number or maybe the manager's cell phone number. And I made the call and yes, pretty much congratulated him on it. And I felt at that point in time, there was no sad feeling because obviously West Indies cricket was in a bit of turmoil and I had other things to concentrate on. I had no feeling that 6 months later that I'd be breaking the record once again. So tough luck to Matthew, but it happened.
Poor Matthew, he's not allowed to do that. He didn't know that. And so, Brian, please, and especially for the future generations and our beautiful children standing right here, what does it take to make it at an international level as an athlete, and not only make it, but also stay there for long periods of time? What does it take?
Well, I think you need to love whatever you're getting into, and it doesn't necessarily have to be sport. Whatever it is, you have to fall in love with. And as a young man, I played everything. I played football, I played table tennis, cricket. Of course, I was a little bit more gifted in cricket than the other sports. But I definitely enjoyed it. I had great support. And you might ask me to speak to the kids here, but I also want to speak to the parents because my dad played an integral part in my career. He supported me. He made the sacrifices. You just spoke of the fact that I had 10 siblings, 6 brothers and 4 sisters. So you imagine how many mouths we had to feed, how many sacrifices he had to make. So I think it's important both that the parents understand their responsibilities to their kids. And my dad honestly did, and he was not a rich man. He made whatever sacrifice he could have made, whatever he could not buy, he told me. And I was just very, very proud to have had a family such as that. So to all the kids, it's good to have that love for the game. It's important that the parents support and the kids sort of have the discipline necessary to further themselves each and every time. And what's most important as well, as a young person, try not to make the same mistakes second time and always learn something new every time you go out to play.
Wonderful. And what role does training play in reaching those athletic levels that I'm talking about? And you were definitely, and you are, in great shape, and you definitely, you made not just using the word legend lightly here, but you've made a career and you were definitely on the top of your game. So what part does training play and discipline you've mentioned?
Well, first of all, if you're a young man like these kids here, would you call playing cricket in the streets or playing cricket in your garage training? So I was doing something that I love. So I never actually felt that anything that I was doing to enhance my game was called training. It was just sort of doing something to enhance my game. I was being disciplined. I loved what I did. I loved the process before I got onto the field. I enjoyed going to practice sessions. So for me, I never actually worked a day. I never really trained a day because I loved everything that I did that made me have the career that I had at the end of the day.
That's wonderful, Brian. Has the sport or the game of cricket taught you any life skills?
Yes.
What are they?
Definitely a lot of life skills. I think, in terms of success, I don't think that everybody is happy when somebody else is successful. And I think you guys know that. When you're on top of that tree, everybody, wants to get you down. So one of the things that I've learned is the fact that, you know, whatever I try to do, I try to do it to the best of my ability. And then I look at other people who are very successful. And instead of being envious and instead of trying to bring those people down, I try as much as possible to learn from whatever they have done and have them as a role model. I think that is a better way to go than, the general feeling sometimes is, let's try to pull this guy down because he's so good. So for me, and just remember, I was only a sports person. I have to deal today in business. I have to do all sorts of different things. So I have different role models that I had 20, 30 years ago when, I was a kid as a sports person. So one of the life lessons is that, appreciate what everybody brings to the table and make sure and learn something new each and every day.
Beautiful. Brian, could you please name 5 of the most outstanding things that you have learned through the sports journey? Not just cricket, your entire sports journey.
I think, first of all, to deal with success and failure at the same level. Sometimes a lot of people are very successful and, they go on this high. And then when failure hits them, they actually don't know how to deal with it. I felt that I learned that very quickly in my career where I understood that if I was successful, yes, that's for a period of time. If I failed, I can't be in the doldrums. I can't be like so down that I can't pick myself up. So I learned from a poem called If, where you treat with triumph and disaster the same way. That's maybe one of the most important lessons. Also, throughout my career, I at one time there was a watershed moment where I felt that I was caught up in so much of dislike that people had for my success that I actually start believing in them and I actually start, derailing myself. And I realized that that is not possible. Everyone can't love you. And I learned very quickly that the most important thing is you got to appreciate yourself more than anybody else for them to actually love you. So I learned that very quickly. I learned to forgive. That's a very important part in life where, you bottle up with all sorts of different anger. And it's not going to help your situation. It's actually going to hurt you. So I learned very early in my career. I wouldn't say early. I learned somewhere midway in my career about forgiveness and letting go. And actually, at sometimes, you feel like you're 300 pounds. And when you do that, you feel so light and you feel able to do different things. That's about 3 points, and I'm exhausted. But it's camaraderie in sport is maybe the key thing. More than all the records that I have, the ability to land in Lahore and speak to the president or the prime minister Imran Khan, or in Mumbai with Sachin Tendulkar. I think out of all the different success stories, the fact that you've created friends around the world, I think that is going to live on forever.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well said. So since you're exhausted, here's the second last one. What would you like to unlearn?
To unlearn. Oh, I've done that already. Um, I think that's just the one thing that bothered me that I realized that it was a waste of time was just um, carrying the burden of other people. It's an unbelievable trait if you could forgive. And, you know, I had an hour with the late Nelson Mandela back in, I don't know, I think 2005, 2006, when South Africa was, you know, promoting for Football World Cup that they eventually got in 2010. And I had an hour with him, and I asked him, you know, how could you walk out from a scenario where you spent 29 years in prison, and you have an opportunity now to take revenge in whatever way you want to. You know, you were the biggest thing in the world. And he said, Brian, South Africa would never be the same if I did that. We needed to come together as a people, the same people that destroyed the country, bring everybody together as one and move forward. And I think from that statement and learning how he was very easy to forgive was just magnanimous, just to say the least.
We have a fantastic gathering here, and there's, I think, a lot of businessmen in the room. We have a congratulations once again, Pavan. We have an office opening here, so there are lots of dreams and aspirations and ambitions in the room right here. Keeping that in mind, here is the last question. What are the attributes of a team player, and what are the attributes of a leader?
Well, I think first of all, if you're a leader, at one point in time, you have to be a good follower. You have to be a good team player. And you know, people ask me if leaders are born or if they can be created. I think that most leaders are created simply through good experience. And I was a leader at school, you know, simply because I was a very good batsman. I really didn't understand leadership, and I felt that, you know, I could go into international cricket and I could be the same leader. Because you're the best batsman, you can be a great leader. But here I am, I'm dealing with Jamaicans, Barbadians, Guyanese, people from different culture. And I really didn't understand what man management is all about. All right? So I think to be a good leader, you have to understand and appreciate and have empathy throughout that process before you come to a good leader. And sometimes you've seen in the West Indies that there are average cricketers that became good leaders, simply because they understood each and every single individual. So a good leader has to be a good follower, and a good team player has to be someone who appreciates the partnerships that he shares with everybody. And I can't remember, I could remember, but I cannot ever forget. Courtney Walsh was the captain of the West Indies, and we were playing in Wellington. And if you're the captain, you could pretty much do anything you want. You can bat wherever you want. You can bowl wherever you want. And in Wellington, New Zealand, I think they call it the Fremantle Doctor, the wind was gushing like 30, 40 miles this way. And Courtney Walsh took the ball, and he took it from the end that the wind was blowing against, and he ran into the wind, right? And he gave Ambrose the ball from the next end with the wind. There were 2 changes from that end, and Courtney bowled from start of game to lunchtime from this end. And for me, that was just unbelievable. That was an unbelievable team man. And nobody would have questioned him if he bowled with the wind. And I think that's what good teamwork is all about. Somebody is willing to take their top off and do the same dirty work that they're asking others to do. And that's proper teamwork.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank
Really
you, Brian.
appreciate it. Do we have time for a couple of questions from the audience?
Yeah.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay, great. The first question we have is from Raman. Raman, please raise your hand wherever you are. We can send you the microphone.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
My question is to you: is 375 is more important or 400?
More important, or which one was
For you,
which
for
one
your
had the
career.
most significance? Well, 375. I was 24 years old, and pretty much was going on unknown territory. I had no clue how to go about scoring that kind of run. So I was a lot more nervous. To do it for the first time is far greater than doing it the second time. The second time I was a lot more calculated. I know how to go about it because I did it before. So I would say that emphatically 375 had a greater impact on my life than 400.
Thank you.
Aryan Verma. Oh, here's the young man here.
Yeah.
Hello.
Right.
So, did you ever experience a tough time in your career, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I created, I experienced a lot of tough times. And, you know, there are some sportsmen who actually could keep a certain level of success throughout. Say, for instance, like a Usain Bolt that might have lost one race in his whole international career. But as a cricketer, you tend to fail more than you succeed. So you have to be able to deal with it. So one of the ways I dealt with failure is that I was not too tough on myself, right? So some people, okay, I'll just give an example where I understood, I don't know if it's true, that when Steve Smith got out at Gabba and he made 5 or 4, his punishment was to run from the cricket ground to the hotel. Now, that's his punishment for failing. Now, guess what's my punishment for success? It's the same thing. Because when you succeed, I believe you want to make that period last as long as possible. So for me, running after the game, after scoring 100 or 200 was so important. Or spending time looking at videos and making sure that I stay a step ahead of the opposition was very important. So don't get too caught up or don't get too down when you fail, because you have to deal with it. When you succeed, don't get too fancy. Don't get too big-headed. Just make sure that when you succeed, you want this to last for as long as possible. And the only way you can make it last is if you actually go back and work even harder than you worked the day before. So make success this big and make your failures this small. And that's how I dealt with it. And pretty much, as I said earlier on, when you fail and you succeed, treat those two imposters just the same. They're imposters. Just have a nice level head about it.
Vidan Vyas.
So, like, I've seen you and your team and the Indian team verse on TV. So, which one did you like to, which cricket player did you like to face the most?
On the Indian team, I like playing against Sachin Tendulkar. He was different. I don't know if you'd appreciate it. If you know an Indian batsman in the 1980s, even in the early part of the 90s, if they're playing in India, they were very good. But outside of India, they weren't that good. Sachin Tendulkar was someone who changed that whole feeling about Indian batsmen. He can bat on any pitch in the world, against any attack. So for me, the batsman that I loved playing against the most was Sachin Tendulkar from India.
Rania.
What inspired you to be a cricket player?
What inspired me to be a cricketer? That's a very good question. First of all, as a kid, I had 6 bigger brothers. So when I was this young man's age, my brother climbed a coconut tree, cut a branch, and shaped it into a cricket bat. So 3 years old, I had this little tiny thing playing cricket. And from that day, I wanted to be a cricketer. And all my bigger brothers, 6 bigger brothers, played cricket. And if I wanted to have a hit in the streets or in the garage, I had to get them out before I get a hit. So they did not make it easy for me. They made it very, very tough. Also, the West Indies team, and we didn't have television, on radio, the West Indies team was the best team in the world. And the radio will be on, and I'll be listening as a little kid of all the great things that the West Indies team was doing. My father also wanted a West Indian cricketer, and my other 6 brothers weren't that good. So he gave me everything possible to try to make it to the top. So that's why I was inspired to be a cricketer.
Okay. We have young Anthony and Big George with a question.
I might start first. So, Brian, thank you very much for today. This is great, sharing your stories, and congratulations, Pavan. The question I like to ask people quite often is, you've always had a very intense life, in and out of the spotlight, cricket, and after cricket, life after cricket. What do you do to wind down from the intensity of cricket life and after cricket life?
Well, it was tough. I must say that, as you would know, most of my career was spent during the downward spiral of West Indies cricket. They were very successful, invincible in the 70s and 80s, but when I started to play, we were sort of on a slide. So it was tough. But you know what? Maybe people would know here, but my dad, who made all the sacrifices for me, actually passed away the day that I made the West Indies team. So he actually never got to see me play. And I used that as inspiration throughout my career. This is what he wanted me to do. And at no point in time, I felt burdened by what was going on. Yes, it was challenging, but at no point in time I wanted to turn around. So for me, cricket was my love. Cricket was my dad's dream for me, and I always felt inspired to play. I did other things. I played golf. I did things to sort of calm myself down. But it was always attractive to pick my cricket bag up and go to play cricket. It was never something that I felt burdened or I felt that, I'm exhausted. So luckily for me, I was able to go through 17 years and achieve the things that I did on the field.
Anthony?
What does it feel like of having the highest score?
Oh, it's an amazing feeling. It happened, and sometimes I look back and I think, why did this happen to me? Why me? How come? But then I realized that, if I was to backtrack and see all the different things that I did as a young man, I realized that these things happened because of all the work that I did. And I sometimes feel very shy about it. I mean, to achieve things that nobody has ever achieved. But I'm learning very lately to sort of appreciate my achievements and to appreciate them even more. So it's been a great journey as a cricketer. But do you know that all these little records that I have are not the main things in my career? I've done things with like my team where we won tournaments and we created history doing other things. And those achievements in a team environment rest much better with me than my individual performances. So I appreciate and I thank God every time that I look up and I see my name on a board, and because of this and that. But as a team player, as cricket being a team sport, you have to appreciate all the other things that you have achieved as a team.
Mark. Next question is from Mark. Here we go. Just pass it on for me. Thank you.
Hi, Brian.
Hi.
I was wondering, out of all the bowlers you've faced over your career, which one did you most fear or respect, and why?
Indian bowlers.
I must say that I think that the greatest bowler that I've played against was Wasim Akram from Pakistan. I think that his deceptive pace, his swing, his action, I felt like if I was in the best of form, he could still make me look silly. And yeah, I think he was the best. My nemesis is Australian Glenn McGrath. He got me out the most times more than any other bowler. But he was more of a patient bowler, and if he waited for you to make the mistakes, while Wasim Akram he will get you out just from his sheer ability. Shane Warne is the best spinner. Murali confused me more, but I felt that Shane Warne had a little bit more grit and determination and mental strength than say, Murali had. But I played against some unbelievable bowlers and also some great batsmen. I'm very happy very happy that I was not facing Kirtley Ambrose as well.
Ali Hafiz? Can you pass the microphone this side, please?
Hi, Brian.
Hi.
I saw a lot of batting performances, but whenever you come to Australia, you're very passionate, all the time. Even in the Test cricket, you play like ODIs. Why is the passion all about? It's on next level whenever you play in Australia.
Well, I developed a desire to score runs against Australia. I remember when I played my first test match in Australia. It was my third test match in total, and it was at the Gabba. And I went out to bat, and I was on 58, a young man, and I flicked the ball down the leg side, and I missed it, and I was out my crease. And Mr. Healy tried to stump me, but he didn't have the ball in his hand. The ball was on the ground. And he flicked the bail, and the umpire gave me out. And there I was, 20 years old, on the ground, looking at Healy, and I said to Mr. Healy, I said, can you do the right things? And he said, tough luck, mate. Welcome to Australia. And from that day, I always wanted to perform well against Australia. Always.
Okay, and the lucky last is with young Savan Bajaj.
Hi.
Hi.
How did you get the patience to face so many deliveries in your 401 and still not get out?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, you know what, I scored my first Test 100 in Australia at the Sydney Cricket Ground. And I was on 120, and the rain came, and I came off the field. And the coach was Rohan Kanai, and all my fellow players were congratulating me, and well done, Brian. And I sat in the room, and the coach came to me, and he said, well done, but set your stalls out. And I didn't understand what he mean. I said, what do you mean by that? He said to me, your next innings starts at 0. So what that means, young man, is take advantage of the situation now. Make sure and turn this 100 into something special. Well, I did. I made 277, and I fell in love with batting. And 100 never meant anything. 150 never meant anything. I wanted to bat as long as the team was batting. I wanted to be out there in the middle. So getting exhausted or getting tired was never a factor with me. And you see some players, when they get 100, they get out. But I was a sort of player where 100, I wanted a double, and if I got a double, I wanted a triple, and then I went on and on and on and on, and I got a lot of runs. So, no milestones when you go to bat, okay? When you go to bat, just make sure and bat for as long as possible. Let the captain call you in.
And to wrap up our question and answer, Brian, firstly, thank you for being so gracious and answering the questions. Now, this question is rather special, and we've seen lots of big names, crumble and disappear, and we've lost some great personalities as well. So that's the background to the question. So from the very beginning, we are told success is your goal. Success is your goal. Chase success. What is success, Brian? And what do you win and what do you lose?
What's success? Success is a family of 11 living in a 3-bedroom house with a dad who was a laborer and worked himself to being a manager. Success is a housewife with 11 or 13 mouths to feed. Success is somebody who is able to pick himself up from the ground and dust his pants and come strong again. So for me, success is not, the millions of dollars that you make or the runs that I scored or, and even for you, the 20 or 30 companies that hire you to do business. Success for you would be to make your staff, your employees happy, to have friends who would leave wherever they left this evening to come here and spend time with us. That's success as far as I'm concerned. And people may label it in different ways, but that's how I feel success is all about.
That's lovely, Brian. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. We're going on to the presentation? Yes. Oh, the motivation.
Yes. First
Over to Pavan Mishraji. Once again, let's see how loud this room can get. Can we say congratulations, Pavan?
Congratulations, brother.
Thanks a lot, Brian, for coming here and giving all of us the opportunity to see you face to face. I won't be humble here. I am always been humble. Today I'm not humble. Mantr Group is where it is now. It's all because of its staff, strategic partners, family, wife, siblings, everyone. So if I were to factor anyone out of the success of Mantr Group, that would be me. To be humble, but not to be humble, it's owed to everyone around here. And some of the people couldn't come here because of Wednesday being a working, but with them as well. And Brian is here. I said him in the car park. I watched his 374 maybe 50 times on a VHS. And when I came to Australia, I went back, I lost it. My mom put it somewhere. I was upset for so many days. So I keep watching it on the YouTube time to time. And when he scored 374, the pull was an awesome stroke. And with our company as well, I want to do a small analogy where we started as a test match. It took us 15 years to get where we are now. We waited for a lot of loose balls. We did a lot of running between the wickets, 1, 2, 3s, and we were a little slow on the target where we wanted to go. Too many factors were instrumental. But now we want to change the game. We want to go into a one-day format and be aggressive, like Lara, be fearless, like Lara. Doesn't matter who the opposition is, what the pitch is. We want to make sure we get the target out of the park straight away. So that's a defensive and offensive approach of Lara, which me and everyone should follow, including the kids. It's not about 20-20. It's about 10-10.
I think soon, if
Thank
this
you.
pattern continues, Pavanji, thank you so much for that.
Thank you, thank you.
I think the pattern continues. I think it will be 10-10, 5-5, 2-2, 1 maybe, and then probably the captains will come out. Let's toss. Yeah, done. Okay, so yeah, 10-10 it could be soon. What do you think, Brian? Do you think they'll reduce it to just a toss? Yeah.
It's already there. It's
Nice
already
weather,
there.
toss.
I like working hard for my runs.
All right, so we go on to the presentation.
Speech or motivational speech.
Lovely,
Small-
thank you.
Small motivational speech if you want to give.
Oh my.
You did in bits and pieces.
I thought I did a good. You want me to
You
find
just told us you like working hard. There you go.
No, not motivational speech. I think that have expressed a lot in terms of what got me to the top. I just maybe like to give a really funny story. Kids, you know what a duck is in cricket? Hello? Yes. What's a duck in cricket? 0. Okay, good. So before I scored my first 100 in Sydney, Australia, it was the second night of the game. And Australia just made 500 and something runs against the West Indies. And my roommate at the time was Desmond Haynes. And he said to me, "Young man, would you like to go to have dinner?" Now, with not much money in my pocket, of course, a free dinner. I'm going to get a free dinner for sure. So I went downstairs and we went to this Chinese restaurant in Sydney here. And I looked at the menu and I ordered crispy duck. And my roommate, Desmond Haynes, looked at me and he said, "You cannot order duck. We have to bat tomorrow." So I said to him, "I'm ordering my duck. I want duck." Anyway, the food came and he turned his back and he ate this way and I ate that way because he didn't want to look at the duck. And then the next day, he went out to bat and he got out for 23. And he's walking off the field and I'm walking on the field. And whilst I'm walking past him, he said, "Good luck with that duck you had last night." Well, 277 later, we had duck in Adelaide, we had duck in Perth, we had duck everywhere. So that's my little funny story. So I ate duck the night before I batted. And then, close your eyes, kids. 2 years after that, I asked the mother of my daughter, Sydney, if I could name my daughter Sydney. And she said to me, okay, thank God you did not make your first 100 in Lahore. Thank you very much for having me here, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. I hope everybody enjoyed the evening. It's been good. Thank you.
Shields are coming just next door.
So we do have a small presentation after this, and then we'll continue with the program. And we'll keep, I promise you, we'll keep Brian here as long as possible. So if you keep the applause going, get the current, the electricity in the room going, we can keep this man here longer. Thank you, Brian. Okay.
Thank you.
Christina, you're here. Okay, great. Yeah. I'm just waiting for things to arrive. I think there are people in the room right now just kicking themselves, going, I had a question. I wish I had registered my name. Yes, there are nods in the room. Yes. One from here. There's one from there. There's one from, okay, here. Oh, one from here. Okay. I'll have to ask permission, though.
Okay, please.
Do you think so? Yeah, it's all right. Okay, go ahead, ask the question.
Brian, yeah, I've grown up fighting over friends that you're better than Sachin Tendulkar, and you can understand how it feels when you're in India, Sachin is considered as a god. Towards the later parts of your career, there was a stage when West Indies cricket was going through a very bad phase. Like, you were the only one. So how did you feel when you were walking into the field during that phase, yeah? Like, did you feel heartbroken, like after, being one of the best, after being the best batsman in the world at that time, and doing that much for the team, which you loved? Like, how did you feel? What was your feelings when you were walking into the field, or when you were out seeing that your team is going down?
Well, first of all, the argument about who is better between Sachin and myself actually is something that both of us used to laugh at, because we felt that it was an unnecessary comparison. And we brought different things to the table. And actually, we had other cricketers that we actually loved as well. I mean, Rahul Dravid was tremendous, Jack Callis, Ricky Ponting. So that argument never had any life in our conversation between myself and Sachin. We never really actually compete on that level. In terms of West Indies cricket, batting under the pressure that I did throughout my career is something that I embraced. So even though on many occasions we went down and I was disappointed, I still felt that I had the impetus to keep going and keep playing for the West Indies until the very last day that I played. I actually, it was a lot of disappointment. But my era of playing West Indies cricket, I would not change for anything. A lot of people ask me if I would have liked to play when we were invincible, when the team was winning, and you can bat with all these great players. I said no. This was my time. I enjoyed my time, and I hope I left a legacy in the game. And I would never change that for anything.
Thanks, man.
Fantastic. All right, we do have a photo op, or photo opportunity. So all the good-looking people, just make sure you got the, shampooed well. You just fix yourselves up, getting photographed with Brian. Look at that, look at it, look at that. Yeah, of course. So, before we get into the photo op, see how beautifully we've planned this evening. We're giving time to you to fix yourselves up, and then we can continue with the program. First up, I would like to invite, may I please have Mr. Kevin Lance from the Eastgate Gardens. Mr. Kevin Lance from the Eastgate Gardens. Mr. Kevin Lance from Eastgate, just there. Next, may I please request Mark and Suraj from City Guard Protection Services. Mark and Suraj from the City Guard Protection Services. Thank you, Mark and Suraj. Meriton Property Services, Arthur, Alex, Victor, and Bill. Arthur, Alex, Victor, and Bill from Meriton Property Services. Meriton Property Services, Arthur, Alex, Victor, and Bill. Justin Cochran from Dooley's. Justin Cochran from Dooley's. Justin Cochran from Dooley's. And Mr. Dungana from the Oaks Group. Mr. Dungana from the Oaks Group. Okay. Home Improvements, Dharmesh and Ravin. Dharmesh and Ravin, Home Improvements. Julie's Embroidery, Harish. Dharmesh and Ravin from Home Improvements. Julie's Embroidery, Harish. Harish from Julie's Embroidery. Sure. Infinity Finance Solutions, Sukhbir Singh. No. Infinity Finance Solutions, Sukhbir Singh. Used Cranes Australia, Dhruv Bajaj. Used Cranes Australia, Dhruv Bajaj. Wiggles and Giggles Group, Yatinder. Used Cranes Australia, Dhruv Bajaj. Wiggles and Giggles Group, Yatinder. Homemade Cleaning, Raj Agarwal. Homemade Cleaning, Raj Agarwal. CTC Communications, Sean Rowan. CTC Communications, Sean Rowan. Homemade Cleaning. CTC Communications, Sean Rowan. Ash Designs, Ashish. Friends World TV, Varun. Fiji Times, Varun. वो ताकि चलना शुरू कर दे. Ash Designs, Ashish, and we've got Friends World TV, Varun. And Mantr Group would also like to thank Fiji Times, and Varun is here. I'll pass on the shield. I'm happy with the applause. Thank you. I think it's an opportune moment for me to remind you, if you've fixed yourselves up, combed your... No, don't worry about Rajesh. If you fixed your hair and you're ready for the photo op, so here are the very quick instructions for that. We'll make our way this way for the photos, and we'll exit this way. Is that okay with everybody? Simple instructions. Switch off those mobiles. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, and please, quick request, folks, please literally turn off those mobile phones. No selfies, please. Thank you so much. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm the good person. Okay. Okay, all right. All right, folks, before we start the photos, I've just been advised it's a 5-minute water break. So I don't know what that means, but yeah. Get yourselves a glass of water. That's the level of fixing up we are asking you to do. Okay. And So please, we are looking at groups of 5. So if 5 individuals can walk up to us, and from this side, we'll take pictures of 5 people at a time, please. So in groups, no individuals, regardless of how attractive you are. So let's do this really, really quickly. All right, keep going, folks. Come on, let's do this quickly. It's usually considered good luck, Brian, so nothing to worry about there. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brian, so much. Most gracious. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. Yes, Brian.